Exactly. So this is a contrib module for D7. It's in core in D8. Is that right?
Yes.
I
was just committed today, wasn't it?
What? Huh? There wasn't the Migrate
Migrate
today.
API.
It was the Migrate API in particular.
But Migrate's been in the last 3 months.
all right. So the point being here is that this is the Migrate suite is the accepted solution for migrating into Drupal. I've done a number of migrations. I'm going to say on the order of 10 to 15 migrations of sites, the one app as well, into Drupal using a number of various mechanisms. Starting off with just straight filling out the tables of the database and running into plenty of pain points. From there, moving into some scripts kind of laying around. Those did the job. Eventually ended up kind of graduating into a suite that I developed to handle doing some migrations. And then eventually I started using the Migrate suite, which did a lot of the same things that I was already doing. So we're going to cover the Migrate suite because it's there for 6 and 7. And as well for 8. It's been refactored to a large degree, but a lot of the same concepts still apply. So this is me again. This is the objectives and agenda combined. So this is a diagram of the basic structure of the Migrate suite. I'm just going to get up and point at the screen a little bit here. So these are all classes within the Migrate suite. They all serve a different purpose, and then there's different ways they're all utilized. The main function of it all comes from the actual migration class. And the idea of it is you've got a source, you've got the actual migration class, which takes data from the source, transforms it, and gets it ready to go to the destination. In the middle of it here, you've got a map, which tracks source content to destination content. So as content gets moved in, it's just a listing saying, oh, we've got this piece of source data relates to this piece of destination data. So in terms of sources, these can come from pretty much anywhere. The standards for these are there's a Migrate SQL source, which represents importing data out of an SQL table. So when you actually work with a row from the Migrate source, that's a row out of your table. It comes into your migration class. You can do whatever you got to do with it there, assign it to fields, and then you move it on to the destination. The destination can be a number of things as well. The common things that you'll see for destinations, for one, is nodes. So you'll migrate into a node. You can also migrate into users and taxonomy terms through the core functionality that's already a part of the Migrate module. Another piece of functionality that's available for the source is you can actually provide it a list and then items for a list as an alternative mechanism to going in through a straight database import. Does that make sense? So, good. So essentially, this is the flexibility to deal with whatever source it is you're going to deal with. So you can migrate as effectively from an SQL table into Drupal, or you can migrate from a list of things into Drupal. I'm going to show a demonstration a little bit later that has it migrates a list of files into Drupal. So we find the files, iterate over them, they go into Drupal. So you see, we've got source, we've got a migration that does the transformation of the content, and we've got the destination. In the middle here, we've also got the map tracking the data as it comes in. All right, we're going to take a quick look at the Migrate UI. That didn't work out well. All right, so here's an empty Drupal site that I built earlier. If you want to get to the actual functionality of the Migrate site, so there's the Migrate module, and there's also a Migrate UI module. The UI provides the pages here that you're going to see. Migrations can also be handled through Drush. So there are drush commands that do a lot of the same things you're going to see here. This is an actual migration that I developed here just to show everybody the pieces to it. So the idea of the migration is we've got files that are laying on the disk. We can find the files and we can migrate them into Drupal. They're going to migrate in as image type nodes. We actually click into the migration, you can see some different data that it's reporting on it. So in terms of the destination, so the destination in this case is the image type node. You can see the fields that are on there. Basic node, I took the body off, added an image field called field image. So if we look at where things are going, we've got a node ID that gets generated as it's imported. We've got the title that we're setting in the actual migration. There's all these other pieces of node data that we're not really interested in, and then we're going to set the actual image field value when it comes in through the migration. That's what we're seeing here. In terms of the source data, we've got a title and an image field, and these actually aren't showing up. I'm not real sure why. I have to look at it. And then the migration, these are the actual mappings that are done. So in our Migrate class, you'll see it here in a moment, that's where we actually do the mapping of field data. So that there's the Migrate map, which maps source content to destination content. That's at the content unit level. This is actually talking about field level type stuff. So we've got a piece called ID and a piece called URL in our source, and we can see those are mapped to title and field image in the destination. I'm going to back out here to the Migrate screen. So this is the main Migrate screen where you end up doing all of the work for the migration, assuming you're doing it through the UI. So this is the migration that I actually built.
If I weren't doing it through the UI, how would I do it?
Drush. If you were listening earlier, you would have heard Drush.
I'm still fuzzy as to the source of the data to be migrated to.
So the source of the data. So what we're looking at here, the source is this section here, and the point being is it's flexible. The actual implementation that we're doing right now, the source is files that are laying on the disk. So those could be text files, they could be XML files, they could be JSON, they could actually be feeds from somewhere, they could be whatever. But the implementation that we're using is we're using files that are laying on the disk. You'll see the code in a little bit of how we're finding the files. So the source is those files on the disk. We find them and we've exposed them to the migration. So the actual migration is what you're seeing on the UI here. It's found 5 rows. So there are 5 files right now. None of them have been imported. 5 of them are unimported.
So in this case, what's the source? Is it
It's files on the
data
disk.
table?
It's files on the disk.
Okay.
So a table in the database, it could be a source also. In the implementation we're using, it's files on the disk. I can actually pull that up here. So this is get it on the right screen. This is the files of the Drupal site. I just picked an arbitrary place to put these files, so they are in the files directory inside of Fox Valley Drupal Meetup group images subdirectory. So there's 5 images in there. So this is the source. Is that clear?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
cool. All right, so and then this screen has statistics on it. Hopefully, as it imports, everything will go smoothly. You would just click here, tell it to import, execute. It would do a batch operation. The progress bar would fill up as it goes. You could do hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of these. The migrate that I did with that Adobe application, I believe was on the magnitude of 14,000 nodes. The entire thing takes, is that,
Takes that long?
and is that because there are dependencies involved, so it's actually a series of migration dependent on each other?
Hundreds of thousands.
Excuse me?
There are hundreds of thousands of pieces.
Okay.
So you've done
Can you?
That's extraordinarily long. So, I mean, I've done migrations on the order of hundreds of thousands. I'm gonna say about 250,000
Well,
pieces.
it's a library. So,
Obviously, you have to do a rollback for migrate, so you do incrementals.
That was gonna be my option. How do you do this in chunks? How do you do this incrementally?
Okay. Well, so I'll show you that once we actually get into the actual migration code.
Sorry for skipping ahead.
No worries.
I'm impatient.
No worries. So this is the main screen here. So you would click through here. The batch operation would start. The progress bar would fill up. Hopefully no errors happen. Everything's happy. You'd end up with 5 rows, 5 imported, 0 unimported, 0 messages. So if there are errors that happen, they get logged into messages. You can click into those and read them and see what's going on. That's what this screen does. There are also a couple other options down here. If you've already done your import and you want to redo your import, you can click update. You can limit it if you want, and then also you just click back through to execute. It'll execute. It'll update all the stuff that already imported. If you don't click update, it's only going to bring in new stuff.
And I know you skipped that again. Let's say you had another data type that you're doing. You can do those both in one operation.
You
right?
could.
And if they're dependent, I see there's an ignore dependencies down there.
Correct.
If you ignore dependencies once and then run a non-update, how does it know to go back and update things, or are you just starting doing it again?
Say that one more time.
If you only update, let's say you have two, parent-child.
Okay.
And you import your parent without the dependencies.
It's not going to re-import the parents unless you explicitly tell it to update.
But will it put the references in?
Yes, it'll apply to all of them. So if we had multiple migrations listed here, we could check one or some or all of them,
Okay.
and conduct the migration. It will figure out the order of them based on the dependencies. So if we had
Sorry for
depend-
missing all the base level. I haven't seen this.
no worries. So if this migration was dependent on another migration, the other migration would run first, and then this one would follow it. And that's how you would handle relations between content. All right, so that's pretty much all of the UI. The next piece has to do with the codes, the actual migration that's in practice here. So this is on GitHub. If you want to look at it, there's the link. I'm just going to come in here so we can see the code easily. So these are all the files that are involved. This is just a regular module that's in there just like any other module. The module file is actually emptied. We don't need anything in there. In the migrate.inc file, we tell it about our migration. So any migrations that we have, we would list here. So this is the name of the migration that appears on the screen right here. So that's the name of our migration. Here we're telling it which class to use. So if we actually jump back and look at the code, that class is this one. So this is the main piece of our migration that we're gonna be working with here. So that represents this right here. So this is the migration. It's gonna do all the work. In here, you can see we're specifying our source. So in the migration, you specify the source. Our source is a source list, and we specify what class we're using for the list and the list item, which we'll see in a moment. So you can see these are the two classes right here that we're using for that. And then down below, we're setting the map. The map tracks content from the source to where it's been imported on the destination. So we've got our source and our destination, and then we got the map defining the relationship as it comes in. And then we're defining which fields we're wanting to set. So you saw this in the UI. So the field title on the node is going to be set from the ID value from the source. Same thing with the image. So field image is going to be set from the URI value of the source. And then there's one more piece down here called the prepare row. I'll come back to this in a moment. If we jump back and look at the other pieces that are involved here, we've got our list and our list item. The list is just providing a list of things we want to import. So this is just another class. We're extending classes provided by the Migrate module, implementing a few methods that are required to make this work. So we're telling it fields. These are the fields that are necessary for our import. You can see the get ID list. This is the main piece of work that's provided by this class. So we're just looking on the disk. We're looking for things in this folder right here, and providing them back as an array of IDs. So these are file names. We chop off the .jpeg, and it becomes just a list of IDs 01, 02, 03, 04, 05.
You could return a real file name, so as they were originally.
We could if we had the schema set up properly. Right now the schema set up as an integer value, so it wouldn't handle it would explode because it's a string value as opposed to a.
But during this migrate, once you could get the actual literal string, you still want to transpond it, right?
Excuse me?
You still want to use transliteration to pull out the special character for everything and migrate.
Potentially, in this case, we're assuming that they're numeric.
Okay.
So it's just the implementation detail here. So the get ID list, this is the main worker function of this list class. It's providing a list of IDs for the items that are coming in, and then you can see the item class right here. So an ID comes in, we create a row out of it basically. So we know the ID of the row is going to be the same as the ID that came in, and then the URI, we can make the assumption that it's going to be in this spot. So the file for that image is going to be in this spot. So here we're actually creating a row of data that's going to come into the migration, be transformed, and then pushed into the destination. So we've got ID and URI. And we're going to come back to one more piece on the code in a moment, but we'll actually let this go ahead and run here. So as we import it here, I'm going to show you there's no content in the site, no nodes in there right now. If we go ahead and run this migration, no! Oh, I just crushed it. The backup file's there, nice. So since I opened it in Finder, this is there. Don't come back. So it happened. I just refreshed the screen. It picked up where I left off. Everything happened. You can see. So now we've got. It's still found five images. We imported 5 of them. It did it at this rate, pretty fast since it's not really doing a whole lot of work. We can come back and look at the content now. We've got 5 image nodes. See what came in. So this is the title, which we set off with the ID. So the ID is the file name with the JPEG stripped off of it. And we've got the actual image file. And so those files were actually in that folder inside of the public files. If we look at the actual file here, you can see it respected the field settings. So it tucked it into site's default files, and then inside of images / Fox Valley Drupal Meetup group, and right now it happens to be rendering through an image style. So it respected the field value that we set on it. So if you have your images set up on image nodes, they should be in files / images. It'll respect that instead of leaving them in random spots on your web server. So we see the migration happened successfully there. I'm going to do one minor change here to show one additional piece of functionality. So we were talking about transforming the content as it gets migrated. So here's our prepare row method on the actual migrate class. So this is the same class where we're defining the field mappings and our source and our destination. Well, so all that's happening up here: source, destination, field mapping. So prepare row, this is what happens. We get the raw row data come in. So that's that item that we created with the ID and the URI. So we can make changes to that here. So whether this is parsing that raw data into additional data. So if you've got a big blob of data, this is your chance to, you can either use some different HTML parsing libraries or a regex, whatever you have at your disposal. Break apart whatever existing HTML you have, fill in additional field data. You can compute more field data here. Whatever you can think of to do to your data, you've got raw data coming in, you can manipulate it, transform it right here. In this case, I'm just going to add the time to the titles. So you can see the title coming in. It's actually the ID, so I'm going to add on to that the current time. And as that happens, it's going to update this ID, which is in turn going to set the title to the ID plus that time value. So to make this happen, we're just going to come right back in here and rerun the migrate with the update. No! And that file has returned.
Ignore that.
Yeah, I should have taken that out of there.
Now, were this for real, I mean, could you make
You-
your migrator?
You could exclude
make the
that
source, right? Okay.
file.
Looks like a problem in your map.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Looks like a problem in your map.
No, it's the DS store file. Since we opened it in Finder, it put a DS store file in there, and that doesn't match the assumptions we're already making in it.
All I see is ampersand, word.
All right, so just refreshing the screen, it picked up where it left off. You can see 5 updated. That's exactly what we're looking for. If we come back to the content screen, it did not do what I was expecting it to do.
Fooled you again.
Gotcha, huh?
Why, Pebbles?
It's always something. Let me take a quick peek. Row ID.
Just flush your cache.
Shouldn't be necessary.
Really, it's Drupal. I thought it was always necessary to flush
Make a quick guess on what's wrong here. Fairly confident that this will run without exploding this time. Boom. We updated them again. Still didn't fix it. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that prepare row method. I'd have to look back into it. But that is where you would go in and make changes to your files as they're being imported in. So we've got our row of data, and that's where they would come in. So this is the basic structure of the Migrate suite. Like I said, this is all object-oriented. There's so much functionality already there with the Migrate suite. Extend what's already there. You'll only be writing small pieces of code to do whatever it is you need to do to work with your specific data. And that's it in terms of the Migrate suite.